The things that that I have to remind you, you need to get your history in, your character history. You need to create an alter ego of an individual who needs counseling. Of course, none of you need counseling, but you need to create a character that does, and you need to put that information on the history form. It's on the assignments page. You need to put that information on the history form, and you need to email it to me, and you need to get that done. We're going to start counseling in about next week is the sixth week, so we're about halfway through the lectures. We're only going to be lecturing for 10 weeks. I'm only going to be lecturing for 10 weeks, and then it will be time for you to start counseling each other. We're going to be doing it online. We're going to be doing it by telephone or by cell phone or whatever, and any other psychology, teletherapy. You can use Duo, you can use Skype, you can use what do we have? Zoom. You can use there's a Facebook app that you can use to connect with other individuals. You can use any of those to do your counseling, but you need to create a character first. I don't want anybody counseling an actual problem because that can cause relapse, and then we can be the college can be held liable if that kind of a thing happens. So you need to stay away from any problem that you've had in the past. You need to stay away from any problem that you are close to. If you're close, if your spouse has depression, then you probably need to stay away from that. You may think you have more knowledge about that, so gee, I'll just use that one. But the reality is that let's see, how can I explain this? If we're very close to somebody, then will develop symptoms that are very similar to theirs. Uh, just as the mirror effect. So don't select a problem that you are close to. Okay. What else do I need to tell you? You need to get those in. Also, everybody has a paper that's due. The paper is about your client's problem, your character's problems. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started with Chapter 8, Expressing Understanding. There we go. Being empathic involves connecting with clients by attuning to their thoughts and feelings. Of what is shared, one must consider the content, the feelings, and the possible meanings. According to Norcross, the empathic practitioner attends to what is said and is at that periphery of awareness as well as what is said and is the focal awareness. Okay. Empathy is seeing the world as that person sees it, not as you would see it if you were in their situation. Feeling the way the person feels about the situation, understanding the meaning that the person is giving to the events, grasping the assumption that it influences their particular worldview. It doesn't really matter how you would react to it. It really doesn't matter how you would react to it. It's how the client is reacting to the situation. By being empathic, a practitioner can learn to connect with people from different backgrounds and experiences. The essence to building a client-practitioner relationship depends on whether the client feels understood. Clients will not share personal thoughts and feelings unless they feel understood. If a practitioner can establish a sense of empathic understanding with the client, they're more likely to build a therapeutic relationship. Expressing empathy means communicating an understanding of another person's experience, their behavior, their viewpoint, their meanings, and their feelings. Empathy involves restating in your own words your understanding of what the client is expressing. When a practitioner uses empathic understanding, because the client feels understood, they're more likely to be open and trusting, share more of their feelings and thoughts, help clients who are having trouble expressing themselves. When a practitioner uses empathic understanding, they are validating the client's experience. It shows the client that the practitioner accepts and understands the client's experiences and concerns. This is especially important if the client has been told that their point of view is incorrect due to an abusive relationship. And a lot of individuals will be coming in because of abusive relationships. I was looking at statistics the other day, and it indicated that the vast majority of problems that people have to do with their relationships. I know that you don't want to talk about these kinds of things. Nobody wants to talk about sexual relationships, but a lot of times that is the problem. That's what's causing the problem. If talking about sexual situations is too delicate for you, then probably becoming a counselor is not the best idea. Um, there, it's just one of those things that you have to deal with if you're going to be a counselor. If you think that you're going to be dealing with depression, you're right. You're going to be dealing with depression. You're going to be dealing with anxiety. But what's causing the depression and the anxiety? A lot of times it has to do with the relationship that the individual is having with their significant other. And so, this is one of the things that you're going to have to be dealing with if you decide that you're going to become a counselor. Students often feel awkward or uncomfortable trying to express empathic understanding. Most societal norms don't allow people to talk about feelings. Nodding and saying, uh-huh, is less personal. And of course, that's what most people do. That's about the saddest picture I've ever seen. Okay. So, despite the fact that, according to your traditions, this is something that you're not supposed to talk about, the reality is, in order to help people, you're going to have to deal with their feelings and with their relationships between them and their significant other. When reflecting content, practitioners restate their understanding of what the client has said. This reflection of the client's reality indicates to the client that the practitioner is trying to understand. Are you saying, what I hear you saying is, as I understand it, it sounds like, and that's how you reflect content by using those introductions. Practitioners must show that they are attuned to a client's emotional experiences, and they can do this by reflecting feelings. Besides what the client is saying, the client's feelings can be discerned from their body language, from their tone of voice, and from their facial expressions. Reflecting feelings may be accompanied by a softer voice or leaning forward to imply deeper connection with what the client is expressing, more firmness if the client is expressing negative emotions like anger, disgust, or dismay. Getting the client's feelings wrong is all right. As long as you share your hunches in a tentative voice, clients will probably feel comfortable correcting you. Some feelings are not as acceptable in select cultures as in others, and this is one of the things that we need to remember. If you're dealing with another culture, then potentially your understanding of feelings will be completely alien to the individual that you're dealing with. Different cultures allow different feelings. Different indigenous people have different ways of, or they have taboos against showing different emotions. So if you're dealing with someone who's from one of the pueblos in New Mexico or Arizona, then potentially you're dealing with somebody who doesn't react the same as the Dene people. So this is something that you have to think about. Maybe maybe you're dealing with somebody who's from the Apache reservation. They don't show emotion exactly the same, and their taboos are somewhat different from the Dene people. Just because they speak the same language doesn't mean they have the same ideas about things. Reflecting feelings, client, I haven't heard from any of them. If they are busy, they could at least email me. And you might say, it sounds like you feel sad about that. The client sounding angry and speaking with a tight jaw. I feel like we just aren't getting anywhere. And you might say back to them, you seem to be feeling impatient with me in our progress. The client may say, on a team, some of the people on this team just aren't carrying their weight, and you might say, I'm guessing you're feeling kind of frustrated. The client, a family member looking scared, when they start fighting and yelling, I just run up to my room. And you might say, I wonder if you feel kind of scared. The trick is not to use the same words that they use. You need to use another descriptive word. Um, if you say the same thing back to them, it sounds like you're parroting them. So what you have to do is you have to come up with another word that means the same thing. The client yesterday, out of the blue, I was one of the people they laid off. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. You might say, wow, what shocking news. You look like you are feeling quite worried and upset. In common conversation, many people believe that they are reflecting feelings but are actually expressing thoughts, opinions, or judgments. This is usually because the individual is saying, I feel that, instead of I feel, followed by an expression of feeling. I feel that you aren't paying attention to me. That sounds like it's a judgment. Better, I feel that this assignment is too hard. Another judgment. I feel that you children should clean your room. That sounds like a directive. I feel that you always misunderstand me. So using the word that is something that kind of messes everything up. I feel that this group is terrific. I feel that you have lots of strengths. In families and groups, practitioners may encourage, that's okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. No, that's okay. That is okay. Okay. In families and groups, practitioners may encourage members to reflect feelings. Especially in family situations, the practitioner can ask how they think someone else in the family feels. Often the problem in groups is that situations are engendering feelings that are not being expressed or acknowledged. It is possible to reflect both content and feelings in the same sentence. Using this skill allows a practitioner to include more information in their reflective comment. The client, can you believe it? She just left me a note telling me to leave. She hadn't said anything about leaving. The practitioner, it sounds like you were shocked when your wife told you that she wanted you to leave. The client, ever since I was laid off, I just mope around. I'm just at a loss. And the practitioner might say, so in a way you were grieving about losing your job. Group at a picnic where one person didn't show up and didn't let them know. Practitioner, it seems like most of you are feeling hurt and a little angry that Marianne didn't show up at the picnic for Gilligan. Where's Ginger? Sorry. Child client, it is no fun to watch football games since Dad left. And you might say, so before your dad left, the two of you used to watch football games together, and now you feel sad and really miss him whenever the football games are on. Summarizing involves listening to considerable information provided by the client and communicating understanding of that information. Sometimes clients have so much information to share that practitioners listen for some time before making a reflecting comment. This is very common. The successful practitioner will be the individual who speaks the least. Um, I was dealing with a colleague once. She decided she wanted to become a counselor because she gave such great advice. At least she thought she did. And she got into a counseling program, and lo and behold, what she discovered was that she was talking too much, and she wasn't really listening to her clients. What she was actually doing was she was composing what she was going to say in her head while the client was talking, and that really messed things up. And eventually, she dropped out of the program because she realized that what she really wanted to do was tell people how to fix themselves rather than let the client tell her how they felt like they needed to be fixed. That's really the way it works. If you have to tell a client how to fix themselves, then potentially the client will never be fixed because the client hasn't bought into the idea that you have. If they come up with it themselves, they're more likely to accept what you have said. I have a brother, and my brother never wants to do anything that anybody else wants to do. There's a family reunion this weekend. When I tried to put together a family reunion, he didn't like it. He didn't want to do it. He didn't go. But when he put together a family reunion, he expects everybody to show up. He's one of those individuals that if the idea doesn't come from him, then it's not a good idea. Usually your client, it's actually that way. The client has to come up with the idea, and then it's more likely to be followed by the client because it's their idea. That's how you fix people. You fix people by letting them come up with the right solution. Um, the best counselors are the ones that hint or guide or kind of direct or massage the client along until they come up with the right solution. The client comes up with the right solution, which is good. Now the client's going to be okay. They're going to fix themselves, and a lot of times they don't give you credit for it, but that's okay because you're not there to get credit for fixing the client. You're there to make sure the client gets fixed. And if it takes them coming up with a solution, then that's the way you're going to have to do it. In the dominant culture in the United States, it is considered impolite to interrupt. But after taking in masses of information from the client, it is considered appropriate for the practitioner to interrupt in order to summarize. Client, I am really trying hard in school, but I can't seem to get the grades that I want. The practitioner may say, you sound discouraged because even though you were working hard, you are disappointed with your grades. The client, when I am angry with my friend, I tell her how I feel and then she does the same thing again. Practitioner might say, it sounds like you're unhappy because your friend has ignored what you told her about how you feel. Wow, that one just left the building, didn't it? At the beginning of a session, as I remember our last meeting, we focused on how distressed you felt about your wife's roller coaster behavior toward you. When she is friendly, you feel good and get more work done. And when she is distant, you worry and have trouble sleeping and focusing on work. Is that how you remember it? At the end of the session to a group, we have discussed both sides of the issue and noted the pros and cons of each direction we could go. I appreciate how difficult this discussion has been for some of you. It appears that some members of the group seem to be troubled when people disagree with each other. During a session with a group, everyone in the group seems relieved that we have agreed to keep all the information confidential. At the end of a session with the family, Jamie and Mary, you seem to be ready to take charge of of some of the family problems. It has been hard to disagree with your children on what should happen next. I can imagine that you children are upset because you think your opinions don't count. Reflecting meaning is when a practitioner expresses their understanding of the underlying meaning of what the client is discussing. Reflecting meaning is not as straightforward as understanding content or feelings. To understand meaning, the practitioners need to not only be good observers of the behavior and tone that accompanies the content, but also must listen for the possible meaning of a client that the client is giving to a situation, an action, a thought, and a feeling. When working with clients who come from different backgrounds than your own, it is particularly important to express your tentative understanding of their meaning. For example, a student from a Chinese or Chinese American family must always get excellent grades or be considered a disgrace to the family. Client wringing their hands and looking worried. I thought we had a good marriage until my husband told me that he lost his job and had spent our family money on seeing call girls. We are very religious and want to put this marriage back together. And the practitioner may say, I hear you value your marriage and at the same time are shocked and worried about your husband's behavior. Is that right? Counseling a group member. I really enjoy spending time with the man I am dating, but my job is so demanding these days that I am feeling stressed and worried about getting everything done. Practitioner might say, it sounds like you really value time with George and also want to do a good job at work. Family members. Since Bob, the father, lost his job, it seems like we go from one stress to the next all the time. It is like everyone is worried most of the time, not at all like it used to be. The practitioner might say, so the stress related to Bob being unemployed is affecting everyone. Sounds like you are longing for the fun times you used to have in your family. Task group member, finishing this project is taking forever. I am sick of having to do so much extra work. I wonder if it is worth it. And the practitioner might say, you sound frustrated and kind of discouraged too. It sounds like you wonder if the project is as important as you once thought. Is that right? Pause for response. How are the rest of you feeling? When developing a relationship, it is important to deal directly with diversity variables. For many clients, having a worldview similar to that of the practitioner is more important than differences in age, ethnicity, race, gender, sexual orientation, education, and physical differences. Language can prove to be a barrier even when the practitioner and the client speak the same language. One may speak in slang, one may speak using a great deal of jargon. The client may be from a region that the practitioner is not familiar with. Different generations may use the same words and phrases differently. Good example, today I was at, where was I? The Noodle Factory. Yeah, the Noodle Company. Anyway, so I got there and I ordered my food, and then he asked me if I wanted teriyaki steak. And I couldn't understand what he said because he said it so fast. Well, I had been, I, I had been in a meeting with people from the administration this morning, so I wasn't used to people speaking that fast. I didn't understand what he said, so I had to ask him again, and then I explained what the situation was. That I'd been on the computer all morning with people from Arizona, with Dene people from Arizona, and of course, he thought that was just the most fascinating thing in the world. Then he asked me a question, and of course, he spoke so rapidly I couldn't understand what he said again. I said, "You're going to have to slow down because people on the reservation don't speak quite that rapidly." And he laughed. He thought that was funny. And then he asked me questions about psychology on the Dene reservation on the Navajo Nation. Then I got my food, and the lady said something, and I have no idea what she said. She said it so fast, and I asked her to repeat it, and she repeated it, and she repeated it even faster than she did the first time, and I didn't catch it the second time. I think she said, "Well, I put napkins and a fork in your bag." I think that's what she said, but if she said it so very rapidly, I couldn't catch it. That's not that uncommon for people to speak so rapidly, especially people that are used to saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. They just want to get it done. So, yeah, yeah. And there is a problem with older individuals not understanding what the kids are talking about. I was just reading something about flaming people. It has something to do with online, and I have no idea how to flame people. I think it has to do with insulting them somehow or saying mean things to them really, really fast or burning them up. I don't know. Anyway, the world's getting more and more complicated, isn't it? It is important to express empathy in cases where the client is from a different ethnic group, has a different age, gender, religion, has different physical abilities. Conveying that you completely understand how they feel is rarely accurate and hardly useful. Telling an amputee that you understand how she feels, no, you don't. You don't know what it feels like to not have a leg. If you have two of them yourself, then you have no clue what she's been going through, especially if she's a combat veteran. And of course, you've never been in combat, then that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Your goal is to understand how the client feels, what they experienced, and what meaning that experience had for them. Empathic understanding increases the client's sense of being understood. It takes considerable courage to openly discuss concerns with a stranger. It also takes a lot of empathy to show that individual that you care what they feel and what they're thinking. And that is the end of chapter 8. So let's jump ahead to chapter 9. Oops, there we go. Okay, chapter 9. Gaining further understanding. Perfect. Before asking questions, it is important to express understanding by reflecting their feelings, the content, meaning, and summarizing. This is what we learned in the last chapter. Questioning without expressing understanding may seem like grilling, like you're trying to find out who murdered, whether it was Colonel Mustard in the billiard room or something with a lead pipe. Open-ended questions are questions that require more than one or two-word answers. They invite clients to express opinions and feelings. Open-ended questions generally begin with who, what, when, or how. How do you feel about that? Tell me about. Will you tell me more about? That's a sloth, by the way, a baby sloth. Will you tell me more about how you feel when? Will you explain more about? Tell me about who has helped you with this problem. How have other people helped you with this problem? What led you to seek help at this time? Tell me about improvements you have noticed since our last appointment. What would your life be like if this problem wasn't going on? How have others you know solved this type of problem? Who have you talked to about this problem? How did it help to talk to others about the problem? Tell me about what it feels like to have this problem. How have you solved other problems in your life? What do you understand about the kind of help I might offer you? Tell me about what you have done to work on this problem. Closed-ended questions are questions that can be answered with one or two words. Closed-ended questions are appropriate when the counselor is seeking specific information. How old are you? What is your address? How many other people live in your house? They give you facts and are easy to answer. Skilled practitioners choose the type of question to ask based on their goals. Beginning practitioners often overuse closed-ended questions. Using closed-ended questions may imply a practitioner's need to be in control rather than work collaboratively with the client. Some clients treat open-ended questions as closed-ended questions by giving one-word responses. It is necessary for the counselor to encourage them to speak more. Tell me more about. When did this problem start? Yesterday. What do you like about school? Recess. What do you do when your husband comes home drunk? Put him on the couch. Do you check in with each other at the beginning of their meetings? No. Do you eat dinner together? No. Asking more than one question at a time, is confusing. In their reply, they will only answer one question, and you may potentially miss important information. Is it hard for you both to both work and study? How does your family feel about this? Asking multiple choice questions may inhibit the client's exploration. How do you feel about that? Sad, confused, angry? None of the above? However, with a client who has a limited vocabulary or isn't used to expressing their feelings in words, the occasional multiple choice question can help. Oh, look at that. There's none of the above. Asking rapid fire questions, while this form of questioning is common in some cultures, most people feel that this style fits more with interrogation, not with creating cooperative working relationships. Attempts at showing understanding should come between questions. Questions with a suggestion embedded. Sometimes questions are used to inform or persuade clients about your point of view. And this just happened to me. It was I was waiting for a student. I had an appointment with a student, and I had a survey person call me. Of course, it's election year, so they were asking me about who I was going to vote for. But they started asking me all these loaded questions, and of course not only am I a psychologist, I'm also a political scientist, so I knew exactly what was going on. They were trying to convince me to vote the other way, and if I had said that I was going to vote the way they wanted me to vote, then they wouldn't have given me all of these questions. But they kept putting suggestions in there. This guy is ugly. He treats his wife badly. Are you still going to vote for him? That kind of thing. Don't you think it is important for you to go back to school and complete your GED? What do you think of trying to exercise more to decrease your depressed mood? And of course, that's what they were doing. They were trying to lead me to say that I wasn't going to vote for the person I'm going to vote for. You should hear some of the negative things they said about him. Said he was a pedophile. Oh my goodness gracious! They just said all these horrible things. He's stolen money. He's been elected, 5 times, but he's stolen all this money. It's kind of amazing. Questions that begin with why often invite people to feel defensive. Why questions rarely invite open discussion and may be experienced as attacking. People actually often aren't aware of why they act the way that they do. Problems or challenges are important to explore. The history, the length of duration, current changes, previously employed attempts at a solution, the severity and frequency of a problem. Using scaling questions can be valuable. Using a 1 to 10 scale to rate an aspect of the problem, What aspect of the client's life are affected by the problem? The situation and environment are also important and can sometimes give a more complete perspective on the problem. And this is what they ask some of the questions on a scale of 1 to 10. How strongly do you feel about voting for this guy? And I said I strongly was going to vote for him. And then she gave me like 15 different pieces of propaganda. Most of them I knew were completely erroneous. She had just made this stuff up, or somebody had, and because I was strongly in favor of voting for him, she was trying to get me to change my intensity of voting. The desire for me to vote for this individual. I strongly agree that I'm going to vote for this individual. She wanted me to say, well, somewhat agree that I'm going to vote for the individual. It didn't work, of course. I knew exactly what she was doing. As tricky as that is. A nurturing and sustaining environment can support a client through many stressors. What life stressors has the client experienced? Number of children and other people in the house, job demands, deaths, of course, illnesses, and or major health challenges. What life stressors has the client experienced? Current or past traumatic events in family or community, demands related to school, church involvement, volunteer activities. If the practitioner is genuine, clients feel more comfortable exploring. Being stiff, distracted, or detached does not indicate genuineness. Genuineness is indicated by being natural, sincere, authentic, candid, honest, and forthright. And that is the end of my lecture for today. So I'll see you guys next week. We'll probably be tackling either chapter 10 or chapter 10 and 11. So see you next week.